Hi everyone, welcome. I'm down here in my wormery and I'm preparing to check in on a bin of African nightcrawlers that were launched on a somewhat special day. I guess we could even refer to these as the Leap Day ANCs because it was on February 29th that this system went into production. As most of you probably know, February 29th only comes around once every 4 years on leap year. And these little guys have been living in here now for 61 days. So yeah, it's already been 2 months. And they've been fed 5 times. And I'm getting them geared up after 11 days for feeding number 6. So I'm going to get a glove on, get the bin up on the bench, and we're going to get to work. It would seem that I touched on most of the bits and pieces of info here on my information board about this bin and these worms, but the only thing I didn't mention, I suppose, is the estimated population size of this system. At one point, these worms used to occupy 2 systems. 2 systems of these African nightcrawlers were hauled out, used to launch off 2 new systems, and then something went amiss, and all the worms in those 2 systems came to an abrupt end in their new homes. And then it was really their harvested castings from those 2 completed systems that I turned to in the hopes that we can round up any stragglers that failed to get collected during the initial haul out and harvesting. So fortunately we were able to collect up some survivors. So I suppose I could either dwell on the horrible outcome of the old systems that these guys would have occupied with. Well, they would have eventually been probably released into whichever of those 2 new systems that ended up dying off, whichever of those had the fewer estimated worms living in it. That's probably where we would have ended up putting these little guys, but they ended up getting it, put into a brand new home of their own, with the hope that perhaps they'll be able to reproduce and expand their numbers again to a respectable quantity, perhaps once again in the near future, enough to occupy 2 systems. But for now, I believe with under 1,000 worms, we're in pretty good shape. These little guys, I'm kind of surprised that they're still connected to each other. When you see a couple worms attached to each other that way, they're mating. And I usually feel a little bit bad interrupting that process. I would definitely like to see that happening as frequently as possible, especially in systems like these that are kind of recovering from a kind of a terrible situation that happened to them. I'll tell you, I wish I had some sort of a magic trick to do away with springtails. I mean, I do have what I consider to almost be a magic trick for dealing with the flying insects, the gnats and the fruit flies. I always seem to be able to tackle outbreaks of those little guys with the mosquito dunks solution. And I'm not going to suggest that that's the reason I'm putting this stuff in here, is that I think that this is going to help me clear out the springtails. I'm really treating this as more of a precautionary step, which I should probably do more frequently in more of my systems, which is to just assume that the potential exists here for flying insects to make themselves at home in here. So I'm putting that mosquito dunk solution in here as more of a precautionary step. Is this some sort of a sticker? Wondering what this might be here. I don't know. It says something on it. Okay, well, I was able to tear it. So perhaps it's just it's so glossy though. It somehow seemed to me like perhaps it's not something that would break down, but for whatever reason it ended up in here. I must have put whatever that was through the proper level of scrutiny to determine whether or not I even want to put it in the bin in the first place. So hopefully I didn't do a haphazard introduction of some sort of bedding material that's not going to break down. If it is the case, then it's unfortunate that it's now two pieces. So usually I'll be using my shredded paper, cardboard, and leaf mixture, prepared bedding. But here we decided to replace the top covering cardboards that were on this system, and throw those cardboard bits down into the feeding zone as the supplementary bedding to go hand in hand with the last feeding. What we gave them last time was potato, and I usually expect after 10 days to see leftovers of the potato. I mean, I do freeze it, so I don't expect to see it growing. Sometimes I actually feed non-frozen potatoes and end up finding little sprouts growing constantly from the little bits of potato. And I guess the stuff is just really, resilient to the breakdown processes that would normally occur. But it does seem like freezing the stuff disturbs the material just enough that it is able to actually jump right into the breakdown process in the worm bins. So if we do see leftovers of the last feeding, it would most likely just be the skins of the potato peels, because these potato peels had a good bit of the actual yummy potato on them, but at this point the only thing you're going to find are these little paper thin bits of the potato peel. And that stuff will all go too in time. These right here must be crackers. I also threw some dry crackers in here. Every now and then I have a sort of oddball. See, these are all potato peel here too. All nibbled clean of all the yummy starchy goodness that was on them. And will eventually all break down. But some stuff just goes quicker than other stuff. So I think we've opened up more than enough room for getting these little guys fed. I guess I'm kind of in la-la land. I don't know why. I just feel like running my mouth. But I'm going to grab my prepared bedding mix here. I mean, stuff is so heavy compared to how heavy it usually is. And that's because I prepared it with a tremendous amount of moisture. So this prepared bedding, this batch of it at least, is very, very moist and very heavy. And you can probably even tell just from the look of it, it's a little bit more densely kind of concentrated with more leafy matter than usual. Perhaps I used a little bit more leafy matter than I usually do. The yummy stuff they're getting today, a couple more kind of baked goods, not crackers. The crackers are all gone now. These are just these other sort of biscuit pastry thingies. So here we got a banana peel, and a really nice big one for them, and just an assortment of different fruits, perhaps veggies as well, but I clearly see orange peel. Oh, how do you like that? A little mini banana that still has the actual fruit inside of it. So sometimes the foods that I give to the wormies comes from various places, not just my kitchen. I have a number of different donors who like to also responsibly do away with their kitchen scrap type foods that would otherwise just end up in their trash pail and be hauled off to the nearest landfill. But by doing it this way, you're giving these wormies a nice meal, and in the end you can have a whole bunch of lovely castings that were produced by these worms. So before we cover up the feeding, well, we're not even done feeding because we've still got that coffee, but a lot of times I like to include a little bit of grit with the worm foods. And here we've got a nice generous portion of coffee to spread out across the feeding zone. And I'm almost out. Got a little tiny bit of my worm chow remaining. We'll just follow tradition here and try to dress up the coffee with a little bit of worm chow, possibly making it a little bit more appealing for the worms to nibble on the stuff and do away with it for us. Man, so many springtails, I'll tell you. It's such a weird thing too, because for years I never saw any, but probably for about a year and a half now, they started really blooming in a couple of my systems. In a few of my systems I've got absolutely tons of them. This would be one of the systems, I suppose, that has quite a few. Other places have managed to avoid getting overrun by springtails. Whatever the case is, I don't know what I'm doing to create such a environment for them where they really seem to thrive and multiply like they do in this system. But perhaps the mosquito dunks solution we sprayed in earlier, maybe that'll help. I don't know. It definitely works well on the flying insects. When I have that problem, I break this stuff out, and in short order, the flying insect issue is a done deal. And in the rear view mirror, I've not really noticed the stuff working on the springtails, but then again, I haven't been very diligent about putting the spray in. But now that we're getting into the warmer months, I definitely want to put the stuff in as a precautionary measure, just in case any flying insects get any bright ideas. Alright everyone, that's it for the check-in. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. That's always really appreciated. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. That's very much appreciated as well. Alright everyone, have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye now.